This year has been all about heroes facing off against one another. But while Hollywood is only now discovering what a massive draw these matchups are, comics and video games have been at it for decades. This week in Arcade Attacks, I'm taking a journey through the ultimate crossover battle in arcade games. It started back in 1993 with the Punisher of all characters. Capcom had acquired the rights to use Marvel's characters in arcade games and set about crafting a fairly standard scrolling brawler. It was decent enough, but nothing to really write home about. Rather, it was the next title Capcom created that would set them down the path to creating one of the most critically acclaimed fighting series in the fighting game genre. 1994 saw Capcom tap into what was probably Marvel's biggest team, X-Men Children of the Atom. Coming off the back of Darkstalkers the Night Warriors and Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Capcom were at the peak of the fighting game genre at the time, so it made sense to take the same route with the Marvel license. Children of the Atom took the form of a standard one-on-one fighter with some over-the-top additions. The combo meter introduced in the Street Fighter series now fills up to 3 times, with each level allowing for an increasingly powerful X power. It meant that Capcom could give each of the mutants in the game a powerful signature move, tailored to their own particular skills. They also added super jumps, allowing the player to launch opponents into the air and follow up with some devastating combos known as aerial raves. These additions, combined with the large detailed sprites, created a visually spectacular game and started to lay the foundations for what was to come later. In fact, it would only be a year before Capcom would release the follow-up, this time tapping into the wider Marvel universe. Marvel Superheroes launched in late 1995 with a more diverse lineup of characters, though 4 of the characters from X-Men would carry over. Thanos replaces Magneto as the game's final boss, allowing the game to be based around the Infinity Gauntlet story. Gameplay was more or less the same as Children of the Atom, though there was one departure from what came before. Over the course of the game, players would obtain Infinity Gems. When used, they bestowed various buffs to the character such as health regeneration or increased strength. It's an interesting addition to the formula and adds an extra layer of depth to what was otherwise a fairly by-the-numbers follow-up. It was certainly something that would be shaken up by the next entry in the series. With the success of the previous 2 titles, and with Street Fighter Alpha debuting in 1995 as well, there was only one way to go next. X-Men vs Street Fighter would be the first time that Marvel would face off against Capcom, pitting Wolverine, Cyclops and the other mutants against Ryu, Chun-Li and 7 other World Warriors. X-Men vs Street Fighter was the first game to discard the traditional one-on-one best of 3 rounds format. Instead, players would create a tag team made up of any 2 characters who they could swap between at will. Each character would have their own life gauge, which, when depleted, would knock them out and force the other characters to take over. This is all done over 1 round rather than 3, with the winner being the player to knock out both of their opponents. It was a simple change, but one that radically changed how the game could be played. Players were free to choose characters that complemented each other, and when the combo meter filled up enough, to call upon both of them to perform their hyper combo attacks simultaneously. It allowed for epic fights with more spectacular attacks than had previously been seen. This was followed up a year later with Marvel Superheroes vs Street Fighter. Unlike the previous title, there were no big overhauls to the way the game played, with the 1-round tag team format remaining. The main changes were to be found in the roster, which saw characters like Captain America, Hulk and Spider-Man return, as well as in the inclusion of assists. Assists were a simple but important addition to the series. Instead of having to swap out characters, players could retain control of one while calling in the other to perform a move or ability. This would open up huge possibilities in terms of combos and made the choice of characters even more important. So it was that over the course of these 4 titles, Capcom had established a foundation upon which they would build one of the most iconic trilogies of fighting games ever made. This trilogy started in January 1998, when Capcom released the first of 3 games in the Marvel Vs Capcom series, Marvel Vs Capcom Clash of Superheroes. As with Marvel Superheroes vs Street Fighter, there was no huge change to the formula. A few tweaks to the gameplay were to be found certainly, but the main change was the addition of characters out with the Street Fighter series. For the first time, Mega Man, Strider Hiryu, and Morrigan from Darkstalkers would be able to go up against War Machine, Venom, and Spider-Man, amongst others. The assists were tweaked as well. In addition to the 2 characters selected, a random assist character was assigned for each team. These were from a separate roster of non-playable characters, allowing more obscure characters a chance to get a little bit of the limelight. Some of these would never appear in the series again, while others would have to wait until the sequel, or even longer before they would make their return. This was the game that had made me fall in love with the series, being one of the games I got the day I bought my PlayStation. While the number of characters is comparatively low, it does play phenomenally well, and it ensured that when I bought my Dreamcast a year or so later, there was one game I knew I had to have. In early 2000, Marvel Vs Capcom 2, New Age of Heroes, hit arcades, with the Dreamcast version following over the next few months. This was the game that really put the series in the spotlight, garnering critical acclaim and commercial success. Perhaps the most significant change from the previous games was the sheer size of the roster, with up to 56 fully playable characters available to choose from. Every playable character from the previous games would appear, as well as a few first-timers, and even 4 all-new characters created exclusively for the game to fill out the Capcom side. It took the gameplay another step forward as well. While it still used the tag team battle system, players would now select 3 characters for the squad. In conjunction with the massively expanded character list, this allowed for far more variety in the lineups that players could field. The random assist characters had been removed, reverting to the older system where the currently inactive characters could be called in to perform one of 3 different attacks or support moves. New Age of Heroes was also the first in the series not to be built around the now aging CPS2 hardware, instead running on Sega's Naomi board. This is immediately evident in the bold 3D backgrounds and sharp menus and on-screen displays. Only the character sprites themselves are a little bit rickety, some of them having been around for 5 or 6 years by this point. Perhaps the most divisive part of Marvel vs Capcom, though it's certainly something I loved about it, was the soundtrack. An eclectic mix of jazzy lounge music which you either loved or hated. The character screen especially, where you were repeatedly told that "I'm going to take you for a ride," would be prone to sticking in your head. This was almost certainly the highest point that the series reached, and it was a game that would be played both casually and competitively for years to come. Unfortunately, the 2002 PlayStation 2 and Xbox ports would be the last that we would see of Marvel vs Capcom, with Capcom's contract with Marvel expiring not long after the release. There would be one further release, however, on PSN and Xbox Live in 2009, with an HD port, complete with online play. But it would be 11 long years after Marvel vs Capcom 2's release before the series would have its final hurrah. In April 2010, Capcom revealed the development of the much-demanded follow-up, Marvel vs Capcom 3, Fate of Two Worlds. I'm not going to say too much about Fate of Two Worlds, or its updated and expanded version, Ultimate Marvel vs Capcom 3, simply because they never received an arcade release. This isn't totally unexpected though, with arcades pretty much gone in the West at this point, and the audience for the game was always going to be mostly from the console. What I will say though is that as part of the resurgence of the fighting genre following Street Fighter 4's release, Marvel vs Capcom 3 took full advantage of this and is still a mainstay in competitive tournaments 5 years after its release. It simplified the controls, added new characters, and brought back some old favourites, all within a modern HD engine. Of all the games I've covered in this video, it's the one that's probably the easiest to get hold of today, and with the online functionality that's included, there should still be plenty of people playing it, and quite right. Thanks for watching this episode of Arcade Attacks. Remember to like and subscribe to see more of our videos, and to come and visit us at grcade.co.uk.